What-o chaps, I am Magical Mike. This is footage from the Guild Wars 2 Beta Weekend Event 3. You can follow me on Twitter at YTMagicalMike, and after all that nonsense, I can tell you what the video is about. But first, I seem to be missing something. Oh, what is it? Oh, I know. Yes, that's what we needed. Some jazz/funk for the background, yeah! Anyway, moving on. This that you're watching right now, these are all vistas. These are as many vistas as I found in the game that I didn't screw up recording. There's a bunch that I actually found that I just totally messed up the recording of, and all sorts of stuff like that, and they just, you know, I felt like the footage was useless, so I haven't included it. So these are all the vistas. You've watched some from Rata, I think this one is in the Metrica province. There's some from Lion's Arch, from the Grove, from the Caledon Forest. There might be some others, but I totally forgot where they are. They're in this video somewhere, and I'll try and put them out. But I have some notes to go through. I mean, the beta was ages ago, and this is the last bit of footage that I've got, so I've sort of held off putting this out in a video because this is the last bit, and then after that I can't get any more footage until release, and I can't wait for release. Oh, but that's it. This is the last bit of footage, so let's get talking about my notes, shall we, chaps? Yes, I think we shall. So, I made a Sylvari, and while I've been through the Sylvari character creation in a different video, I will just go over it again. There were some clipping issues which I hope they fix. I loved the animations, the running animations. They look really sort of flowy and really plant-like in a kind of non-ridiculous way, which is really good. I really love that. I've talked about all that stuff. I've talked about the armour in the intro scene. Some people have come up with some really good ideas as to why that's there. That's fair enough, but I still think it's a bit of an oversight. But the thing that I haven't really talked about is the tutorial area, which is interesting. You're in the dream, you're doing all sorts of things in there. But I didn't really like it that much. I thought it was the weakest tutorial area out of the entire lot. Granted, it was okay, but there were problems. Like, I had no idea. I had no reason to go and explore in the area. I didn't think there were enough enemies to learn any skills on. I literally came out of that entire tutorial with the one skill that I started with on my Guardian, so that's kind of a shame. I'm sure I could have killed some other stuff, but I had to go looking for them, and I had no desire to do that because they were ferrying me through with pathways and things. I don't know. Some work could be done on that, maybe some more enemy spawns, or just anything, I guess. By the way, here's the Thormanova reactor, which I hated. I hated that place. It was full of unbalanced fire elemental nonsense. Ugh. I also felt that the boss in the Sylvari area was weak. It was so weak, it posed absolutely no challenge. I don't even think it hurt me. It didn't down me at all. And there was as a Guardian, I was a melee kind of. They start you with a melee weapon, right? So you have to go up to it to hit it. But I was hitting it in such a way that I wasn't actually hitting it. I was stood. Imagine a giant four-legged creature, and underneath where its stomach is, there's a huge gap. That's pretty much where I was stood, just hitting thin air, and it didn't really make a whole lot of sense, but whatever, it's a thing I'm only going to see once or twice, depending on how many Sylvari characters I make, and I'm sure they could just improve that somewhat. So, I made a Guardian, and I've talked about the Guardian in a separate video with Xavier, with Guild Wars Buddy, and I've been through all that stuff, but quickly, I felt like the Greatsword was a lot of fun, the Staff was a lot of fun as a support weapon, the Scepter and the Focus were okay. More of a DPS ranged weapon than the Staff. It's fine, it's cool. The Sword, the Mace, the Shield and the Torch all feel exactly how you'd expect them to feel. It's kind of fun, but probably not as fun as the Greatsword or the Scepter and the Focus. Although the Sword, I actually tried that out in the stress test later on and I enjoyed that a lot more. I don't know. It's kind of strange. I also felt like the hammer is almost as fun as the Greatsword, but not quite. It's good for smashing things, and the screen shake effects are really, really good. Really enjoyed those. Oh, I felt like the virtues were kind of dull, they weren't flashy enough, I sort of forgot that they were even there because I wasn't using them enough. Just some kind of a better visual representation of when you've used them would be really, really nice, so that I actually have more incentive to use them. And I know people have said, oh, but if you use them in the right time, you get a load of people blocking and they will thank you for it. I know that, but it's just like, I can see it, but I'd like to see it more, you know? I'd like it if there was a bit more emphasis put on it, you know? Just a bit more, not too much, because then that'd make the Guardian probably unbalanced or something a bit weird. The spirit weapons were pretty fun with the Guardian, I enjoyed those, but I never actually wanted to sacrifice those for their secondary skills unless they were already about to die, which I never really did because I killed things too quickly for that to ever be of use. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. Underwater was about as standard as any other underwater fighting combat stuff, and there's nothing really much to say about that. But overall, the Guardian was about as fun as the Warrior, but it had spells. That is the best way to describe the Guardian. So, what about Rata and the Azuran starting area of the Metrica province, which is where I spent most of my time. You'll see in this video somewhere, I'll try and point it out if I notice it, that I do actually 100% the Metrica province. The Rata was confusing as all hell, to be honest, at first, but after spending like 20 minutes just wandering around there, it actually made a whole lot of sense, which is very Azuran, to be honest. It's the kind of thing that you'd think, oh, the Azura, they're so confusing, you don't understand them, oh, I don't get it, but if you actually stop for a minute to actually try and understand what they're telling you and how they're speaking, and it all makes logical sense, and Rata really does show that off quite well. I also, just on a bit of a tangent here, just looking at my footage, I totally forgot to mention that most, if not all, of the vistas are tiny little jumping puzzles, which is great, because you know how much I love the jumping puzzles in this game. You know, me and Woodzatos have got a series going on his channel, which I'm sure you've all seen, or if you haven't, then you're putting that off because of spoilers. It's fine. We love the jumping puzzles, and the vistas having tiny little jumping puzzles associated with them, perfect. Love it. Absolutely great. And love the cinematic view that the vistas give, even if they do feel like they've been tacked on a little bit for the art team to sort of stretch their wings a bit. I don't know. The vistas are good. I'm not dissing them at all. So what about the Metrica province? The Metrica province. Oh, there's a lot to do. I found that it was one of the most interesting starting areas out of the lot. The Caledon Forest was almost as good, but not quite, just pipped at the post by the Metrica province. The Char area and the Norn areas is just kind of what you'd expect, and the Azuran area was kind of like Queensdale, but more forested and more interesting. It felt more like an RPG, if you can kind of understand what I mean. Which I'm sure you can't, but whatever. It felt like the pacing was really good, everything was spread out really well, and there was a lot to do in the area, but there was one area to the west that was completely empty next to a lake or something, and I think this is the part in the video where I 100% the area. Is it? Yeah, there we go, 100% completion of the Metrica province. There we go. I thought I'd include that there, you can read that if you want to, you can pause the video. Though, I mentioned that blank area to the west, maybe they'll have some events there, but I never found anything going on. There's a lot of crate and things, to be honest, I just wanted to avoid them because I don't like the crate all that much. And I also wanted to avoid the ooze and the inquisitors, but unfortunately there was too much ooze, too much inquisition. There's some, at least some more enemy variety would be nice, but I will say, they do have the Hylek, and they do have the golems and the freaky elementals and things like that, and there is some variety, just not enough unemphasis on the ooze. There's too many ooze, too many inquisitors, but you know, that's a starting area, so it's what you should be expecting them to set things up like that. I've mentioned the cool puzzles, and there's videos of all those kind of things. I mentioned the vistas, they usually in this area they're usually on top of buildings, they're pretty high up. They're fun to climb up that high, and it's really awesome to actually look at all this stuff. But some of them actually are only on top of like a tiny little box, and you wonder why that was even a vista in the first place, but whatever, it's a vista, and you get these cool views and things, these cinematic things going on, which I've mentioned I'm a fan of. What else? Some events are repeated too quickly, like at the start, the Inquisition trying to steal supplies from the very start of the zone. Bit weird, but you know, we've gone over this balance thing hundreds of times, and we know that they're still tweaking that, and they will be doing over and over again. I've mentioned the Thormanova reactor being incredibly difficult, and ArenaNet have acknowledged that that was too hard, and that should be easier on release, which is good. There was a hidden jumpy puzzle in there, which we've gone over in another video, which I personally never managed to get that done. And there was also Ula's lab, which required you to get a key. And we tried that a few times, but it ended up being too hard. So I'd like to see what that's like on release, when we can actually get a key. And my footage is running out. No, I'm gonna have to use screenshots. Sorry guys. Oh, by the way, this last bit of footage was the Henja Denravi in Guild Wars 2. Pretty interesting. So now we're on to screenshots, so I'm gonna have to fill in the time while I quickly wrap this up. There was also a section where I completed the area back in the footage somewhere. That whole cave is full of lava that doesn't burn you at all. It does nothing. Maybe that's an oversight, maybe that's just them being a bit lenient. Who knows? Don't really mind. I just thought it was a bit strange that one time. But that's it. That's pretty much it. Now the miscellaneous things that I'd noticed, they added preview windows to equipment, which is something I'd asked for. Perfect. Couldn't ask for anything more on that. That's really good. The system's perfect. I can't see any problems with it. They've Stop it, Mike. Come on. They've added access to the bank accounts from the crafting stations, which is perfect, because the amount of running between the crafting and the banks was ridiculous in the first two beta weekends. I know my guildie Lilandra will definitely attest to that, because she really got into the cooking, and oh, that was a mess for her, but never mind, they've made it easier, so that's good. I think that they've changed the look of most of the chests found in the jumping puzzles, the reward chests and things like that, which is also good. It makes them bigger, it makes them look flashier, it makes you feel better about getting them. Thumbs up to that, really. You know, these simple changes that they should have made, but now that I have made it, I don't mind. I totally don't mind. I think these kind of things are very simple changes that, while they don't need to be there, I do appreciate them being there, so good job, ArenaNet. They've changed the positionings of tiny little things like enemy spawns or certain traps in jumping puzzles to make things harder or easier, just to balance things. Like in the... oh, I can't remember the name of the Lawclaw Expanse, that one. They changed the positions of the fire spitters. They just removed the ones that were vertical to make that at least doable. And I know it was doable previously, but it made it easier, thank God. Oh dear. They've changed the positions of some of the skill points for some reason, and they've added the vistas, which I've gone over a million times, but I'm just reading my notes and getting confused. So that's fine, that's fair enough. I noticed one in the DS lowlands. No, wait, the Plains of Ashford, that's the one. There was one in a lake previously with a bunch of scale, which seems to have been changed. It's just moved, entirely moved. Or was that the one... that might have been the one even more north of there, which had a bunch of ghosts inside of a broken wall. Might be that one that they moved, I don't actually remember. But, I don't know. Another thing I complained about was there's nothing single player to do in World vs World. It feels like you have to be in a group. And while that is kind of still true, they have added the sentries, I think they're called. It's been a while since I read about them, and I didn't actually play any World vs World in Beta Weekend Event 3. So they've added single player objectives. Perfect. Couldn't have asked for more. And while there aren't loads of them, there's enough. There's enough to make me want to go and do stuff on my own there. I've mentioned the jumping puzzles. They've I haven't played with transmutation stones until this beta, and while I haven't got footage of it, just trust me that the interface for these things is amazing. It's so smooth and it's so intuitive that you don't really get confused at all when you're playing with it, and it's all just, you know, you put this there, you do that, and then you understand exactly what you're doing and what you're getting out of it. Perfect. Couldn't have asked for anything more about that. And finally, something they introduced in the stress test was the ability to hide your headgear and your shoulder pads, not by right-clicking, but instead by clicking a little box with a tick in it, which saves you a single click, which they didn't need to do, but that's intuitive design. And that's what we come to expect from Guild Wars 2. So, overall, absolutely loving the game still. They've fixed loads of my complaints. I'm sure I still have a few, but all in all, still hyped up for the release, and I cannot wait. Cannot wait. How many days now, man? Well, right now it's the 8th of August, but you're probably going to be seeing this a couple of days after I've recorded it, so that I make sure it's all good. Alright, so, enough screenshots, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching, everybody, and, just for you, Drew, toodle pip.